Good evening and welcome to another edition of Tolland County Economy. I'm Drew Crandall, your host. Thanks for watching. Did you know that southern New England is a hotbed of activity in plastics? That the plastics industry has deep roots here? One of the hottest plastics companies is located right here in Tolland County. In fact, you may drive by their main facility on a frequent basis. Joining me tonight is Norman Forrest, CEO of Dymotek in Ellington. Norm, thanks for being on the show tonight.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me, Drew.
You're very welcome. First of all, let's start in the beginning. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in the Western Mass area, so in the Springfield area primarily for most of my young adult life.
Okay, so you graduated from high school there?
Graduated from high school, and then I went into engineering at UMass Amherst.
Okay.
And at 19, I ran into some trouble with my girlfriend, and we decided to raise a family. I dropped out of college and started working. So my first job, so really I've worked my whole life and continued education obviously along the way. But started out at Milton Bradley.
Wow,
and
excellent.
right over next to the packaging company Reed. And so I started there as an operator, and after a while I was given the opportunity to train into the processing role and be a setup person.
Okay.
So I took that job, and then a little while after I wanted more, so I got into the hydraulics department, and they trained me how the machines worked, and I thought it was funny. Now that I understand how the machines work, I can be a much better processor. And then I had another opportunity to go into mold repair, and again, after learning the tool and die role, it was uncanny how, now that I understand how the mold functions and the machine functions, I'm going to be a much better processor. So I took those skills, and really they were the foundation for my career.
Wow. So little did you realize at 19 years old that you would end up having a career in plastics.
That's it.
Right?
That's
but looking back, it's an amazing script.
It is.
You could have never written a better script.
No, and it really, that foundation provided my next step, which was a lab environment for a mold builder in Ludlow, Massachusetts, called Mold Systems. And there it was a great job where I had a lot of opportunity to work with exotic materials, cutting edge technologies like gas assist and multiple component molding, and just a lot of new, exciting, different technologies.
So how long have you been in the plastics industry now?
So now I've been in the plastics industry for 34 years.
Okay.
I don't want to make myself any older than I am.
Yep, the years have a way of flying by.
They do.
You know what's cool too is you came in and you rose to the top from the inside, literally from the shop floor.
Absolutely.
Wow. So how did you become connected with Dymotek?
So Dymotek started out in the early 90s as a company called Trubro. There were two brothers, Steve and Tom Trube, that came up with a proprietary product. At the time, the ADA had mandated that all commercial facilities have an under-the-sink protective covering for the pipes, because handicapped folks typically don't have any feeling in their legs, so when they wheel into a lavatory, they could burn their legs if they're running the water too hot or bruise themselves. So the two brothers put together a solution for that and started selling it in the state of Connecticut. And a few years afterwards, it moved to a federal standard. And now they had a solution that they distributed throughout the United States. And at that point, that's the time where I joined the company, and we started with a couple presses. And now we've grown it up over the years to where we are today.
What year did you join Trubro? Do you remember?
1997.
Wow. And what year did it become Dymotek?
In 2003, late 2003, the Trubro brand sold to a company called IPS in Collierville, Tennessee. And along with it were the aging patent rights and so on. So we continued to contract to manufacture that product in-house, but that's when we changed our name to Dymotek.
And what does Dymotek mean? Is there a certain...
Dynamic molding technologies. Okay. And what it is as opposed to simple shoot and ship parts, it's just a very high level of technology, automation, assembly. We have cell environments. We have long-term contracts with our existing customers, and by doing that we're able to invest in the products and we bring technologies from around the world here to the Connecticut.
Right.
And as part of that, we have a cell mentality now where the parts are put together, assembled, and tested usually, so that we have 100% quality product going out to our customers.
Sure, and you're very computerized, I assume.
Very high level, plant-wide ERP system that's used as opposed to a few different CAN systems throughout the plant or multiple facilities that we have now. It puts everything on the same playbook, so everybody's got one focus.
Hasn't it been amazing looking back to your Milton Bradley days? What the technology was 30 plus years ago compared to today? I mean,
absolutely. I'm reminded of it regularly because I just started doing some internal training with the newer folks that have come into the business, and even now I'm reminded because some of the literature that I'm using is talking about flow control valves and remote relief valves, and it's so sweet now with the the microprocessor controllers. You're pushing buttons, and you have wonderful graphics to show you
what's going
on in the process. Before, I'm looking at needles move and gauges, and it's pretty sweet now compared.
This is not your grandfather's manufacturing shop floor.
No.
And people talk about manufacturing in Connecticut and southern New England that, there's often a common perception that manufacturing is eroding, but that's not necessarily true. There are plenty of manufacturing jobs in the high-tech advanced manufacturing sector. We can't compete with China and other countries if it's cranking out cheap widgets. Is my perception accurate?
Absolutely.
That when it comes to high quality precision manufacturing, we still have an advantage?
That's the kind of thing that's going to stay stateside, and that's our philosophy, and so that's why we have a very high level of that high-end technology, and we try and get the word out even to the community, to schools and high schools, because even for most parents out there, I'm sure there's still a little bit of a stigma tied to manufacturing, that it's dark and it's dirty.
Right.
But it's really, especially our facility, I think is very attractive and shows the other side of that, the flip side.
And you can make a good wage.
You can have a very rewarding career in the manufacturing, especially in injection molding and plastics.
Right. We've had several colleges on the show through the years, including Asnatuk with the Manufacturing Technology Center, and of course they've been waving that banner for quite some time, saying, hey parents, hey kids, hey students, don't just cross manufacturing off the list for vocations, because there's a lot there for, if you have an aptitude that fits and a personality that fits, you can have a great career in manufacturing.
Those folks do a fantastic job. They really do, and we are fortunate enough to be associated with them. And we actually had sponsored a student with them a few years back, and that person came in, and his name was Chris LeBranch, and he basically wanted to learn the tool and die field, and so we paid for his training, his certificate work. He came in, he didn't have big loans, and right away he's put to work, and he's learning. He's learning at a high level. We sent him to Austria and Germany last year for increased training, because that's the technology that we want to develop here. And we need to have, those folks aren't dropping out of trees to come into the plant, so we really need to build.
Where's your main plant?
Our main plant is in Ellington, Connecticut, on Main Street, just off of Route 83.
Okay, near Cloder Farms.
Exactly, right across the street from Cloder Farms. And we started there in '97. It was an old lumber yard that was revamped into a small manufacturing area. In 2004, we launched an additional 21,000 square feet. And coming up to just a couple of years back, the plant was full, around 35,000 square feet total. And we were really packed tightly. And we were fortunate enough to find another building in Somers, Connecticut. And we just launched that facility this year. We had our ribbon cutting on Manufacturing Day, but we've been running now 24/5 since the latter part of April. And it's been, as opposed to when we first started with Dymotek and we're training new folks, it was a true startup, because there was a real shortage of knowledge. And now with the Summers facility, since we were able to train those folks in advance and then plug them over into the new facility, it's been a cakewalk compared. I don't want to make it too easy, but it's both facilities are beautiful, and we're really I'm working very hard to make sure that there's no discrepancy between the two facilities. Everything that, if you have toast at one, it's at the other, so that we really maintain our very positive, wonderful culture that we have.
Right. So if you're on Route 190 heading toward Enfield, isn't it the old solar company
it is.
there?
Yeah, STR was in the building.
Right. Okay.
We spent about 4 months going through and cleaning it all up and installing the infrastructure that we needed for supporting our manufacturing.
Wow.
And it's a beautiful facility now, ready to go.
So how many people do you employ in Ellington and then in Summers?
So in Ellington, we have probably about 105 to 10, and in Summers now there's getting close to 20.
And what's your capacity in Summers if you went to peak? You anticipate being able to add jobs there?
We have 48,000 square feet, so we can more than double the size of the company.
Right.
So there's
you have plenty of space to work with.
Opportunity now.
Okay.
That's correct.
And who are your customers?
Our customers are quite a few of them. We deal with air admittance valves. We have quite a diverse portfolio of products
as a
custom molder, which is important. And so the AEV valves are air admittance valves for plumbing, so that you can put a valve on a sink off the P-trap and not have to tie the pipe all the way back to the main stack. So we manufacture 3 different size valves for Studer, and we sell those to and ship them to over 33 different countries around the world. And we also do fluid distribution for beverage for Nestle with a juice pump and a coffee pump. And these are, again, a few different components. One is up to 7 components that's assembled. It's 100% tested, and then goes out to the filling plants. And we also have a high level of technology now with silicone, where we're taking silicone and thermoplastic and putting it together in the same mold. They're really dissimilar to the Max. And that technology has been able to give us parts that are not only very high-end technically, but complex to the point that they can do things to replace TPEs that are in the industry. And we're making those for speaker. It's a very primary part of an internal speaker that is selling worldwide as well.
Wow.
And that technology is probably, or is for a fact, at roughly maybe 6 companies in the United States. So we feel that we know we're on the cutting edge, and we have expert status in that, in that technology. It's a true differentiator, like you were saying earlier, to get away from the shoot and ship type products that are going to go offshore.
Right. I noticed from your website you're in aviation and aerospace, you're in medical plastics, electronics plastics, telecommunications, automotive plastics, industrial and consumer goods, defense plastics. So you are very diversified.
Very diversified. It's critical given the environment. And we had a situation in 2008 or so where we had one customer that was about 55% of our total business, and they were tied to automotive heavily, and they pulled everything out, not because of quality or anything else, because they had lost such a big piece of their revenue. And fortunately, we had seen them as a threat in advance, and we had a lot of new things coming in, but it's critical that you have that diversification. But you have to be able to say no, and when somebody wants to give you more work, you have to have the discipline. Right.
It's like being a financial advisor and encouraging your clients to have a diversified portfolio. Same principle.
Same thing.
Because you never know what's going to happen. I mean, the annals of business history are full of examples of people who had a great relationship with one client, and then all of a sudden they lost him and they struggled for survival.
Left. Yeah.
It's amazing to me hearing your story that here we are in Ellington, Connecticut, which traditionally has a reputation, it's been changing, but as an agricultural-based town,
Dairy farms.
Yep, you're doing global, world-class quality manufacturing right on Main Street in Ellington.
It's very inconspicuous too. When you drive down the street, you have no idea what's going on inside the building.
Are there any peaks and valleys to the seasonal flow of your business? Winter, spring, summer, fall?
No, it's pretty flat and level loaded. There are some minor ones, but they seem to repeat. I would guess that the biggest challenge are just the ramps on new launches and being able to deliver on promise on those.
Right.
It's a challenge, but our associates are top of the line. I can't say enough about them. They're the bench strength that make it all work and make it all happen. And they have delivered. We had a 60% growth a year ago on a very complex couple of cells. And not only did we deliver, but we were given a commendation by the OEM of top new performer. So it's quite an accomplishment.
Well, paint me a picture behind the scenes. If the development time can take a while, what's a typical scenario? Does an OEM, an original equipment manufacturer, give you the drawings, the specs for a part they need, and they say, can you give us a quote on this? Or how much of your role is manufacturing versus upfront engineering and design? Paint us a picture of what that journey looks like.
We have a very strong and deep engineering department, and the engineering department is the hook, if you will. Many OEMs, they don't have the vast engineering departments that they used to have, so they're pushing down that discipline. And there was so they'll come to us. We'll help them with design. We'll help them put together a strategy. For example, because we have the silicone thermoplastic marriage that we have and expertise, we're able to actually eliminate components when we go into the design of components or what have you. So we take that and we deliver that, and it's happened in the past where the customer, the OEM, says to us, listen, you weren't the least expensive quote that we got out there, but we really feel from our engineering department that your engineering department is an extension of it's an extension of our company. And so that's.
I would think, having a career in plastics, when you look at wood, you look at metals, plastics are unique in the sense that you can shape them into practically anything from scratch. I mean, metal, you have limitations on what you can do with that material. Same thing with wood. But plastics, it's like a wide open playing field, isn't it?
Pretty much. There are some shortcomings where you have to get things out of a draw or an undercut type of situation, but now with the flexibility of cores and coring, it's really it is much more flexible, and there's a lot more opportunity, obviously, as well.
Right. I'm curious, getting back to this whole trend and perception of manufacturing here in Connecticut, what is it like to wake up every day and lead a manufacturing company in Connecticut? I mean, sometimes people complain that Connecticut is a very unbusiness-friendly, unfriendly state for businesses. What has been your experience? Is it a challenging cultural and government environment to operate a manufacturing business, or is that perhaps a little overblown? What's been your experience?
I think that might be a little overblown. I mean, we're in an expensive area with wages and things like that. But again, I think that there's challenges wherever you are in the U.S. I'm involved in different associations, and many of us, maybe we have a little bit different of a, maybe deeper challenges than others. But I think it's always a challenge, but you have to focus on developing your individuals and the folks that you have in your departments. I find it most rewarding for me, because I feel it's a way that I'm giving back, is when we even have some folks in the business now that started even all the way back in the 90s as an operator. And they're,
like you did.
Like I did, and now they're either material tech, or they're a process tech, master molder, and some in management, managing departments, and it really is very, very rewarding for me.
So what are the biggest challenges that you face?
I would say the biggest challenges are folks, finding good associates. And we work really hard to put in good people, and we do a lot of upfront testing. We've really come a long way from let's just throw them out there and see if they can do it. There's a lot of testing that we do now, and disc profiling for personality, and even, you know, we don't use any tool that is a showstopper. It's just a tool to give us a picture on whether or not this person is going to be able to be a good fit, and it's proven worthwhile.
Right. Well, that is a great lead into my next question. What tips do you have for local job hunters? What are the things that you look for, and what are the things that typically you see either in a resume, an application, or in behavior that a red flag goes up and says, I'm not so sure this is going to work?
It's what we do is we go through the individual's history, not just the last few jobs, but their life. And we look for trends. And there's typically a theme. The person's hardworking. There's always setbacks with you know, plant closing or something, economy. Those types of things happen. But we want to see a theme. And for young folks, what we want to see is that, okay, you've done some internships. Because if it's all academic and you've never been in the world, never mind manufacturing, but anywhere, it's different, and you should be putting yourself out there just to find out what you want. And all of those interpersonal abilities, and it has to grow, and it doesn't grow until you start putting them to work, right? Your abilities there.
So if I'm listening right, it's not just the technical aptitude and the technical training, it's the soft skills.
Absolutely.
Because you can be brilliant and really good at what you do, but if you can't get along with people, and you can't communicate, and you don't show up on time, and you're not reliable.
Forget it. Those are all showstoppers. And you have to look at it too, that this is an investment on our behalf to invest in that employee. It's a two-way street, and it takes a lot of time and effort and energy, and we want a return for both of us. So those are equally important. And you know, culture is so important. I know it was a buzzword, you know, years ago, but you need to fire for culture. And you end up setting up the possibility of just being able to do anything because you have the right folks at your back.
What tips might you have for local entrepreneurs and business owners based on your experience in the trenches of every day leading a business?
I would say that don't settle on equipment. And don't settle on individuals. Really drive for, obviously those folks have a passion already. To be in business, you have to have that. But I think that it's all about your support group. You need to develop that support group. What I find sometimes and I was the same way on the front side, you know, I have to do everything myself. I can't allow anyone to. But if you don't grow that bench strength, then you're hurting yourself sooner or later. And I would say just the equipment piece, there's a lot of folks, there's a lot of technologies that are out there, and you can take shortcuts to try and get to the same end, and it just doesn't work. You end up hurting yourself in the long run. So I guess those are the two things.
Okay, that and don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Diversification. Diversification is key. So maybe not on a startup, because you have to start somewhere and you have to grow it, but you should be working on that other piece right away. Your whole career you're doing that.
Right. So you grew up in the Springfield area, but I understand you live in Coventry. How long have you lived in Coventry now?
About 12 years.
Okay. And what stirred you to move to Coventry?
Well, unbeknownst to me, in the state of Connecticut, there were things other than, you know, the 91 corridor, because I'm up in Massachusetts, and it's just the way it works. But after working at that point, it was Trubro for quite a few years, it was obvious that I had a long-term career here, and I wanted to stay here. I wanted to be a part, and I wanted to get into the area. So we looked, and we fell in love with Coventry, with the farmers market, Nathan Hale, all that stuff, the lake.
Yep.
So.
Well, we've been doing this show now for 10 years, and I usually ask the guests if they live in Tolland County, why they choose to live here. And overwhelmingly, it's almost the same answer every interview: the quality of life. And it sounds like that's why you choose to live here.
It was a little bit of struggle for my wife on the front side, but now it's fine because she grew up in a city environment. Okay. It's a little more rural.
Sure.
But now, it's just
sure.
It's beautiful.
And you can still hit Hartford or Springfield if you need your city fix.
20 minutes, right? 20 or 30 minutes. You're right.
Do you have a website that people could visit?
Yes, it's www.dymotek.com, dymotek.com.
Okay. Could you repeat that, please?
dymotek.com.
And is there a main phone line someone might call?
It's on the website,
okay.
But it would be 860-875-2868.
Okay. Are you currently hiring?
Yeah, we have our positions posted on the website.
Okay.
So, and individuals can fill out an application, I believe, right online.
Okay. Typically, if someone applies, are these pretty much hot job openings where it's possible that they could get hired within a few days or weeks? Or what's the general timeline for when you interview and when they actually start their first day of work?
It's important that they get into our system so that we have a pool when we're ready to move.
Okay, good.
Because a lot of times what happens is we're smart about our hires, and we don't use a temp service. Okay. So it's not where you're working this week and not working next week. So there is a little bit of due diligence that we have to go through the top grading process when we hire new folks. But we like to have a pool of a few candidates so that when there's a ramp or there's a spike in orders, we can draw on that. And we're moving quickly.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. This half hour flew by.
Well, it's a pleasure, and I thank you for letting us come in and tell our story.
You bet. And thank you for watching tonight. In the few moments that we have left, please visit our website at tollandcountyeconomy.com. That's tollandcountyeconomy.com. We've been on the show 10 years, hard to believe. And remember, we have the free e-newsletter and free e-job bank. So we keep tabs on where the local job openings are, like at Dymotek, and we send out emails letting people know where they can interview and explore work right here in our own backyard, east of the river. The quality of life here is great, and it's amazing how many businesses we have, like Dymotek, right in our own backyard, that are doing great things, and there are opportunities. So check it out, tollandcountyeconomy.com today.